Hey everyone, this video shows the process of ice dyeing some fabric. Watch the whole thing if you want all of my rambling thoughts, but you could also skip to the end if you'd like to see the results. I just talk a bit about the process and what my goals were, and I hope that at the very minimum it's entertaining. Thanks for watching. I'm about to ice dye 3 pieces of fabric. 2 of them are bamboo fleece, 400 GSM. The one in the middle is I think it's 400 GSM bamboo Sherpa. So it's like a heavy bamboo Sherpa. Not the original Sherpa that everybody loved, but it's still pretty awesome. So for a long time, I was really frustrated with how my dyes were coming out, and I think that I've come up with a process. I'm still working it out, that I could come up with more reliable results. So I'm not having dyes that are super irregular or have too much white or almost completely black. So just wanted to show you what this part of the process looks like. On each of these, I have 2 alternating colors. So on this piece, it is black cherry is the darker one, and ice blue. So that should look like a gray blue and kind of a dark purple. And then for this one, it is, let me look over there. I think it's lime pop and a purple. I can't remember exactly which purple. And then over here, it's plum plum blossom for the pink color, but I think it's kind of like a light purple. And then the darker color is turquoise. So my plan is to put ice on these very sparingly on top of where the dye has been placed, and then check on it before all the ice melts, because I want to make sure that it's not being oversaturated. I don't want the dye to like run out and ice is still melting on top of it, because then it will just be diluting the color and detail instead of placing more color, if that makes sense. So we'll see how it goes. Here's what the pieces look like with ice on them. I just finished placing chunks of ice on top of the fabric. I don't use any kind of guard because I don't use enough ice to need to keep it all trapped on top of the fabric. In my experience, the ice that is in the middle, the moisture automatically goes to the edges of the fabric, so you don't need to have a guard keeping the ice on the edge. But that's just for me. So on this one, you can already see the ice melting a little bit, and it's making the lime pop turn green. So that'll be exciting. If we can keep the purple and the green from mixing too much, it will be really pretty. That's the trick of tie-dye, huh? Getting all of those pretty colors that are on opposite sides of the color wheel to play nice. And then over here is the plum blossom and turquoise. So yeah, I'll come back and show you what it looks like after the ice has melted. Okay, we're back. The ice has melted. I removed some of the large pieces that were going to melt much later than the small pieces, just to keep everything uniform. So it's hard to tell on the video, but I think that looks pretty good. And there's the green and purple one. I'm going to flip these over and add more dye to the other side and add some more ice, and hopefully I have enough ice to do these. If I don't, then I'll just use a spray bottle to make the dye go into the fabric. So I'll update after I get some of those steps done. I decided to use this spray bottle to push some dye into this layer. I just didn't have enough ice to do all of them, so this is what I do when I'm low on ice or don't have any. It doesn't give the same results, but it's pretty good in a pinch. You just have to try to go slow, because if you get it wet too fast, it will make the dye spread out on the surface instead of going straight down. Ice is really good for making it go so slow that it makes the dye go down instead of spreading out wider. Okay, I just finished using the spray bottle to push the dye into the fabric, and I also went back into it and sprinkled some really dark purple. So I'm hoping that those little spots will stay spots and not just blur out into a mess. It's happened both ways for me in the past. Sometimes they stay as cute little speckles, and sometimes it kind of just makes everything muddy. So I'm willing to take the gamble. I'll check it in a couple hours, and if it looks like it's just turning blurry, then I'll put on some gloves and add a little bit more of the dark purple and then just rub it everywhere so that it's uniform, and then it will look like stripes instead of blurry little dots. So we will see how it turns out. On this one, you can see that it turned out really dark. There's just a little bit of variation between the reddish purple and the bluish purple. So I'm going to flip it over and add really bright light colors on the other side and add some ice to that, I'm thinking. And I'm going to do the same to that one, except this one isn't quite as dark, so I'm not quite sure what my plan is for that one yet. I flipped this over and I just wanted to show you, this is like the perfect amount of saturation from the other side. The dye has come through to the point that I can just barely see it in some places, but most of this side is still very white. So what that means is I can apply the lightest colors like a yellow or a really light blue, and that will show up very pure in the final result. If the dyes had come through a lot more, then putting yellow or light blue on top of that would just look dark. So I want as much color pop and detail as possible. So this is my goal for the first side, and you pretty much can't mess it up now because you'll put on the light color and then you're at least going to have a light side and a dark side. The only way that this could be messed up is if there's too much white in the middle that you don't like. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, I flipped over the dye that had pink and blue on one side, and then wherever I could see blue peeking through, I put some blue violet just so that I cover those areas with a color that's going to coordinate well when it blends to the other side. Because on the white areas, I'm going to put a color called daffodil, which is kind of an orangey yellow, and if that mixes with the blue, it's going to make like a brown. So I want that to touch the blue as little as possible. It can go touch the pink and that will look pretty. So yeah, I was just trying to initially cover those blue spots so the yellow orange doesn't go to the wrong spots. And I'm gonna try not to have the daffodil color touching the powder that I just put down, because that'll also make a brown. So it's a delicate process. We'll see. Yeah, I don't know how long I will have the patience to do these and make mistakes, because when you spend so much time doing this and then it comes out bad, it's really hard to do it again. That's why I quit dyeing for a long time. But anyway, I think that this method of going slow and carefully and not putting too much dye on the fabric will work. So cross your fingers for me. So that's what it looks like with the daffodil color placed carefully in between the blue-violet color. And I'm gonna go grab some ice to put on these last two pieces. Here's what the fabric looks like with ice on it. As you can see, there's space between the ice. It's not covered super densely. And I'm not gonna let this ice melt completely through. I'm gonna micromanage this, so I'll come back and check like every half hour and see how saturated the fabric looks. And then at some point I'll just knock off the ice when I think it looks right. And then there's that one, just so you can see what it looks like before the ice melts. The ice is all melted, and here's what it looked like as I started rinsing it. In the sink, I just let water run through them until it starts to get clear. And this is the fun part, when you finally get to open it up a little bit and peek inside. And here are the other two. That one looks kind of scary from the outside, but it ended up being pretty bright inside where the green is. Okay, here's the final update on how these turned out. The camera on my iPad does not do a good job showing the detail and color on these, but I just wanted to show you like a rough overview of how the colors came out and how it compares to like where they were placed on the die originally. So this is the one that was lime pop, and I can't remember, I'll have to just go back in the video and see what the colors were. This is the one that was really long. So it looks nice. It looks nice that it's a really bright green, like a yellow green, next to a really saturated purple, because it's kind of hard to get those next to each other without making brown. I'm not really sure where these red spots came from. That might have been an accident, but I'm pretty happy with that one. This one I think is my favorite, and it's not showing up well on the camera. But it's got orange, desaturated blue, and some purple. The other side of it looks really cool, actually. But I'll be sewing the fuzzy side out, because I just prefer the fuzzies. And it does look much cuter in person or close up. It looks better close up. Because kind of far away, it just looks kind of, I don't know, blurry. And then the last one, I think I like the way this turns out. The colors could have been placed a little closer to each other, I think. And maybe a little more ice, because this pink, there's supposed to be pink stripes through here, and they didn't really show up well. So on the other side, you can see it's kind of there. But I like the way the daffodil color goes with the light blue. And I think this one was originally turquoise, but this color right here is blue-violet, which splits into a purple and a light blue. So the light blue might have been enhanced by the blue-violet color. So it's a little, there's more yellow on the other side, which I like. So I think those are gonna make for some really pretty pads. It's not often that I have dies that come out looking this light, because I tend to be very heavy-handed with the dye. So I usually end up with like the whole thing looking dark purple. So I achieved my goal in not having super dark fabrics. So I hope that this was somewhat helpful if you dye your own fabric and want to try out something new. Maybe you could pick up some tips along the way.